Okay, so I have now completely booleaned each individual row of the outer cylinders to the base. You can see now that these are separate objects. You can also see that here in the object browser. By clicking copy 105, it selects the entire base and outer cylinders. One quick thing about the object browser, if you hit Control-Shift-O, it will reopen it. This button toggles visibility. So if I have that selected and I turn off copy 105, the base, it will remove that. And actually, as you can see, not every row was Boolean. So I will do that really quick. Should take only a second here. Okay, I'm going to hit accept. One quick thing, if you could see how the background here is like a goldish color, or this area right here is like a purple blue color, that means that the union would be successful. If I did this and this object here came up as red, that means that the two objects trying to be unioned would fail, and something must be adjusted. So you either have to move it closer or further away, or alter a certain dimension of the object. All right, so now, like I was saying, just to double check this. Make sure everything is going to search this one. Yeah, so now everything is booleaned to the cylinder, or to the base, as I wanted. And this is important because when I am getting ready to essentially create the holes in these outer cylinders with the smaller cylinders, Meshmixer needs to recognize that these are all one object and that it doesn't create any gaps or anything in the holes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the combine function. So I just held shift and clicked these 6 inner cylinders. And up here, when you do this under the edit function, you'll see there's a variety of functions you could do: duplicate, transform, which is move or adjust the size, align to a certain point in the space of the Meshmixer design, and then create pivot. Create pivot is something a little different, and I've used that to create various tubes. Creating a pivot allows you to change the point at which an object or objects move around. So if you have multiple objects and you're trying to get them to rotate around a fixed point, you can drop a pivot. I may or may not do a video on that later. It just depends. I've only had to use this rarely, but again, what I'm going to do is combine, and it's going to combine these objects as recognizing it as one object. It's not combining the objects physically, it's just grouping them under the same name, which here is copy 15. To undo this function, what you want to do is select that combined object, go to edit, and separate shells. And it will change them back to what they were individual. So I'm going to redo this. Combine. And there we go. So I'm going to do that for each of these, which I will do on my own time. And just for the sake of this video, I want to show the Boolean difference function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the base is selected first, and then I'm going to select the inner cylinders and hit Boolean difference. What this is going to do is take away the difference between the base and the cylinders, which essentially is just removing the cylinders and creating a hole. Let me show you what happens if you select the inner cylinders first and then the outer base. Boolean difference. It'll look completely different. So the order in which you select these objects does matter. And it may just take a while. So as you can see, this is not what we want, and it just sort of cut out a slice there. So I'm just going to cancel that. Boolean difference. And just for, again, further clarification, anytime you see me clicking and selecting multiple objects, I am holding the Shift button. Again, I'm not really screwed around with any of these components. I'll just hit accept and take it as it is. So just take a moment. All right, and as you can see, we now have holes. Something that is important, I suppose, that should be said is make sure, if you're doing something like this, make sure that there is the object you're making the hole with, it goes through the entire object. That way you can ensure that the hole goes through completely.